Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Zero number 355A. This is an automatic door bottom. This is specifically the model that is to fit in the inverted channel, the inverted bottom channel of a hollow metal door. That's what this unit is specifically made for. No other application is what you would have other than that you would require this. If it's going to be mortised to the bottom of a door, you'd use a wood door. You'd use a proper mortise style for that. Automatic door bottoms, they do exactly what the name implies. They automatically seal the bottom of the door when the door is closed, and that last 5 degrees or so of the door closing is when the automatic door bottom seals the bottom of the door. And how an automatic door bottom does that is, take note that this end of the automatic door bottom has this bronze colored bolt sticking out of the end. Call it the drop bolt or plunger. The other end does not have that. This end is the lock side of the door, and this side is the hinge side of the door. When this is installed into the bottom cavity of that inverted channel, and you drill a hole in the edge of the door for the plunger to project out, imagine that this is inserted in there, and you've got this sticking out. When you go to push the door closed, when this door gets all the way to the closing cycle, this will come in contact with the rabbet of the frame. When that comes in contact with the rabbet of the frame and the door is pushed all the way closed, this has nowhere to go but in. And when it is depressed, it will force this drop bar assembly down here to drop. So if I were to push this with my finger here, it would drop just like you see it. I'm putting pressure on that button, on that plunger. And it acts exactly like that, dropping down uneven. And the reason that it does that is it will make contact over here on the hinge side, but when I restrict it, the other side will drop down so that you have like a guillotine action. The one end drops, then the rest of it contours down to whatever the sill is in terms of perfectly level, maybe a little out of level. And that's how these work. This plunger is connected to a flat spring, and when the plunger pushes on the flat spring, it forces it to compress. Well, a flat spring can only belly. It's that bellying action of the flat spring that forces the bottom down here to drop. Exactly like this. You can see part of the flat spring at my finger right there. That's how these work. Now, Zero has other types of automatic door bottoms available. If you click below this video on the link to the product brochure, you're going to see 3 pages worth of variety of automatic door bottoms, and the 355 is on page 3, at least at this time, showing how its application and how it is similar to other models that Zero has. The 355 is a very common example of this material, and probably of the 4 common units that are for inverted bottom channels of steel doors, this is the most common one. It's very nice. It has 2 rows here of neoprene seal, a synthetic rubber. Okay, 2 rows of that. Maximum drop on this is 1/2 inch, and that makes sense because the typical undercut on a hollow metal door is 3/4 inch. The typical height, inside height of an inverted channel is about 3/4 inch as well. 5/8 maybe, something in that range. You'll want to do the math before you figure on buying these, but based on standard circumstances, this would actually hang down from the bottom of the door 1/8 inch. So if you had a typical 3/4 undercut, and this actually did hang down 1/8 inch, so you've got 5/8 there, but there would typically be a threshold. Let's say it's 1/2 inch, so that allows 1/8 inch drop that this has to work in order to seal against the threshold. Or maybe you had a 1/4 inch rise threshold. 3/8 would be well within the range as well. So you can view that link to the product brochure and see how this unit is different from the other available automatic door bottoms. The mortise mount for wood doors, the surface mount, the semi-recess mount, that are all there. But if you're dealing with a hollow metal door, one of the 4 on page 3 is the way to go because it's concealed. You're never going to see it. Significantly less opportunity to damage it, unintentionally damage it. There is also a link to the handing chart. This unit is technically not handed, but some of their units are. In all events, they really like to know, they prefer to know the hand of the door, so that's why we ask that you provide it to us. There is also a link below this video to the installation instructions, and those are packaged with the unit itself, and let's go over them now. So, step 1. Cut the automatic door bottom to 3/16 less than the full width of the door. So if you've got a 3-foot door, which actually measures 35 3/4, they're saying make it 35 and 9/16. 3/16 less than your actual width of the door. Okay. That 3/16 is to account for the thickness of the steel on either end of the hollow metal door. Now I am a fan of when you're ordering it, they're saying cut it, assuming that you've bought, a 3-foot unit. I say measure all of your doors or however many you're dealing with and order the unit by indicating in the comment field the actual net length you want the material shipped out at. In my opinion, there's no sense in having to cut this in the field after you receive it. The factory's cutting it to length anyway. They might as well cut it to the actual length you need. 36-inch or 32-inch, these are no different values for them than the actual size that you require. I say let them cut it. You don't absorb any responsibility for unintentional damage, cutting it wrong, etc., etc. So all these components are cut to length anyway. You might as well let the factory cut it to the actual length. As it's referred to on the 354 in these instructions, that model where this case is offset, you do need to absolutely know the hand of that unit because it's not centered in the bottom of the channel. Okay. Moving on to step 3, talks about drilling for the hole for the plunger to stick out of the end of the door. Drill a 7/16 hole at the lower edge of the door on the hinge side. This is only the hinge side. This is to allow the extension of the adjusting nut, what I'm calling plunger, to make contact with the jamb. Install the automatic door bottom with the brass nut extended through the hole slightly. Okay? So when you're installing this, the door will be on sawhorses. You'll get it up into the channel. Screws are included for you to attach it to the bottom of the channel through these holes, okay, that are here. Once you have this installed, after having drilled your hole, drill your hole, install it, screw it down, then you'll be able to hang the door. Then, step 5, once the door is installed, the final adjustment to the automatic door bottom can be made by turning the brass adjusting nut. So when you turn it clockwise, it will draw the plunger or the brass adjusting nut in. The length that it's projecting from the edge of the door bottom is directly related to the maximum drop. So the more it's sticking out, the further down it's going to drop. When you first install it, only have it stick out 1/8 of an inch or so, because you want to be very conservative. You want to test it slightly. Test it. Then you'll see how your drop looks. Turn it clockwise to draw it out of the housing, so you have greater projection. Test it again. Now, again, maximum drop is 1/2 inch. Keep in mind that when this is dropping, all you want it to do is make contact with the threshold. You don't want it to be under excessive pressure from the spring pushing it down, because as soon as the door begins to open, as soon as the pressure is released from the brass adjusting nut, you want the housing or the bottom drop bar itself to begin to retract. You don't want it still being pushed down while you're opening the door. That would, of course, damage the unit completely. Trimming instructions. There is an image in the lower right-hand corner of the instructions. Max cut should be not closer than 1 inch to the set screw. Well, the set screw that's here is an indication of where the inner assembly is. Now I completely disagree with that logic. completely, to the point where this cannot be the set screw. The set screw must be this item that you see in here, because you can't see it on the camera, but there's an well, you can a little bit, a block in here that connects to the flat spring. So you're going to want to very carefully be not closer than an inch to this set screw from the end. So conservatively on this model, you could cut 3 inches or so. But again, let the factory do it. If at all possible, your job site might be 200 miles away, and you can't make the trip to measure a door. So I understand that. Order it as close as possible so that you don't run into the risk of cutting internal parts that you shouldn't be cutting, is the bottom line. The automatic door bottom, in my opinion, is an extremely elegant way to solve the problem, because they're known to last a very long time. Their service life is excellent. It's very long. And the reason that it is because they're not dragging or scraping against the floor. The seal material is only making contact with the threshold, so there's not a lot of wear and tear that happens when it's just pushing down, because there's no dragging. There's an advantage to it not dragging across a polished, terrazzo floor, wood floors, etc., etc. The fact that this model is completely concealed, I think, also makes it an elegant solution. You don't see the hardware, and yet it's incredibly effective. Okay. When you install it, you can notice that the neoprene runs long. You're going to want that to run all the way to the bottom of your inside channel, and it's typical that it'll be long on both sides. Okay. Zero is a full-line manufacturer of all things weather stripping related, and as you can see from the link to their product brochure, they have a comprehensive offering of automatic door bottoms. There's one more piece that, there's one other item I want to draw your attention to that you're going to get with the unit. This little plastic cap here. All that doodad is meant to do is to go into this hole, and there'll be a plastic head on this, so that every time the brass adjusting nut or plunger is making contact with the frame, if it's a wood frame, you're not creating a divot in the frame, is what that point is. But very nice, very elegant solution, like I said. If you're in the business of making a living with weather stripping, installing it perhaps, doors and frames, absolutely familiarize yourself with the Zero catalog. They have, as their product brochure links indicates, a lot of very unique, well thought out, well engineered solutions to weather stripping issues. Any questions on the Zero number 355A automatic door bottom or any other Zero product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.